Hello, I'm Ryan Ross, and welcome to the 2020 version of the Red Zone Roadshow, what we're calling this year the Red Zone Home Show. Due to COVID, visiting schools around the state and recording in front of hundreds of cheering students, unfortunately, isn't something we're able to do right now, but we're still committed to bringing you the same fun and in-depth coverage you followed the last 5 seasons right here live every Tuesday at noon. We've got a fun show ahead today previewing the upcoming season. So let's rejoice. Football is back, and so is the Red Zone. Let's start the show. That's right. Welcome in live to the Red Zone Home Show, our first episode previewing the season. Thank you so much for following us live on the social media channels across the state, NorthJersey.com, APP.com, CourierPostOnline.com, and My Central Jersey. As I said, I'm Ryan Ross, and of course, I'm joined by my colleagues today. We have Darren Cooper from NorthJersey.com and from the Asbury Park Press. We have Steve Falk, our sports writers, joining us today. Guys, we're back. Happy to be back talking about football. Games just around the corner starting in October. An appropriate start to the season here on the first day of fall. So let's get into it. We're about to start. Darren, let's start with you. Obviously, a lot of planning, a lot of ups and downs throughout this journey to reaching football over the course of the past few months. Just take us through it and what we can expect to see this season.
I tell you what, Ryan, first of all, it's great to see you. How are you doing?
Great to see you, Darren.
Yeah, your couch looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Boy, thank you. It has been a long odyssey since March, I guess, with the NJSAA being forced to halt the state basketball tournament and then cancel the spring season. And holy smoke, we had a lot of intrigue and interest about what we would do to have a fall season. The NJSAA, to its credit, came up with a couple of task force, one medical task force, another one made up of sports officials to try to get us on track for a return to play this fall. And so we are still on track to play this fall with games starting on October 2nd is week 1, a 6-game regular season, and then a +2 model for, we're not going to call it playoffs, I'll call it playoffs, a postseason. And then games are now allowed on Thanksgiving. So yes, there's going to be some bumps along the way. There's going to be some schools opting out. I think there's going to be some games postponed. But New Jersey's committed to having football this fall.
I think it's a great thing that we're back playing high school sports and we're back playing sports, period. I mean, every coach that I've talked to, every player that I've talked to is grateful that they have the chance to be on the practice field, let alone a playing field. And the fact that it's 6 games, it's 9 games, it doesn't make a difference. They're going to be playing football this fall, and they're going to be, the seniors especially, are going to have a chance to finish their careers on the football field, unlike the seniors from the spring season who did not get the chance to finish their senior year on their athletic fields.
And we've all had to, of course, adapt to changes us here and how we report on football, the players, the coaches. Let's check in with one player we spoke with. His name is Zach Goodall from Toms River North, one of the better players at the Shore. Let's hear from him on how he's adapted to all the changes this year to make sure he was ready for the season.
So there's definitely been a lot of uncertainty about the season, the ups and downs, and especially for senior, you want that last year. So the past 5-6 months has been tough ever since March, ever since we got that call that school's going to be, canceled for 2 weeks, and then obviously you haven't been back. So very fortunate I have a gym in my basement. It's not obviously the retro fitness you get or the Planet Fitness, whatever it is, but I got a bench and squat bar and dumbbells. So I spent a lot of my time during quarantine in there, and I was very fortunate to have that stuff and a father figure who can help me out through the process. So maintaining my weight, maintaining my speed and my strength, it's definitely big. The goal is to win games, and Coach always says, our goal is not to win an American division or our division. Our goal is to be state champs, and again, we don't know what's going to happen. Is there going to be a state title or whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, whoever puts more points up on the board is going to win the game, and that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to go undefeated.
I think Zach echoes the thoughts of a lot of players around the state, just happy to get back. And it took some discipline and some creativity, of course, to get ready for the season. But you can really just hear the excitement in his voice that he's out on the field. So, guys, let's talk about this upcoming season. What are some things that we're really looking forward to? I mean, just in general, we're happy football is back. But Darren, what are some things that you're especially looking forward to this year?
I'm looking forward to hearing a band play. Looking forward to seeing cheerleaders cheer. Looking forward to seeing how football players and coaches adapt to our strange times, mask wearing, the social distancing rules and etiquette that all going to apply. I'm curious to see, cautiously optimistic that we'll have more fans in the stands, maybe by the end of October, Halloween, because a limit of 500, it seems like a lot until you finally start breaking it down, and then it's like 500 isn't that much. But on the field, for us, it always starts with the non-public schools. Bergen Catholic is extremely talented this year. St. Peter's Prep is the reigning, defending North Jersey non-public 4 champs. And our public schools are fantastic, with Ramapo with the state's longest win streak at 26. Eager to see if that continues.
Steve, how about yourself?
I'm just looking forward to opening night and to seeing actually a ball kicked off. I mean, I don't know how many people have watched the NFL games. And yeah, when you get all the crowd noise piped in, it makes it seem artificial. But the other night when Seattle played New England on television on Sunday night, and the game came down to the final play, I didn't care that there were no fans in the stands, and I didn't care that it was artificial fan noise. That was a great football game and a great ending to a football game. I'm just looking forward to seeing kids being able to compete against each other, to seeing which teams have actually navigated through the circumstances we're facing successfully. I think all teams have done a reasonably good job at that, especially the coaches and having to deal with all that they have to deal with before practice even starts. And as for the Shore, I think Wall, who we're going to have on in a few minutes, with most of their team back from a 12-1 team, is going to be a definite top 10 team in New Jersey. Rumson Fairhaven, who Wall beat twice last year, has almost everybody back, and they've become a perennial power. And we heard from Zach Goodale before, Townsend North could have one of the best offenses in New Jersey. I mean, they have firepower that's unbelievable. I'm just looking forward to seeing what actually the season looks like.
We'll get into predictions later on in the show, too, looking ahead to the season. We're going to take our first break in the program today. On the other side of the break, we'll have our first interview. We have Colleen McGuire from the NJSIAA to learn more about the planning and decision-making to make this season happen. As we head to break as well, we are going to check in with our colleagues, with Greg Tafaro from My Central Jersey and Josh Friedman from the Courier Post online. We'll check in with Central and South Jersey football. And we'll also have our featured 4. We'll pick out 4 teams from the statewide top 25 to feature. And, of course, for the full list of the top 25 teams in New Jersey, NorthJersey.com, APP.com, CourierPostOnline.com, and MyCentralJersey.com have you covered. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Greg Tafaro of MyCentralJersey.com.
Reporting on the Big Central Football Conference. The newly formed league will commence play without perennial state power Piscataway after the district opted out of fall sports. The season opener for Westfield is in limbo after the school suspended practice amid COVID-19 concerns. The league's flagship programs include reigning Group 5 sectional champion Union and incumbent Group 4 sectional finalist Woodbridge. Both are ranked in our statewide preseason top 25. Stay tuned for what promises to be an exciting season.
It's football season. Can you believe it? After months of questions, we're on the doorstep of the 2020 season. And for South Jersey football fans, there's a lot to get excited about. There's Williamstown, the reigning Courier Post Team of the Year, bringing back Dougie Brown, Donovan Izaraki, Brody Colbert, and bringing in arguably the best player in the state in the class of 2022, Keon Sabb from Glassboro. St. Augustine has a stacked roster once again, a roster that was playing arguably the best football of any team in South Jersey at the end of last year. There's Lenape and Williamboro stacked with athletes, including 2 of the best all-around players in the state, Xavier Coleman and Demi Sumo. Then look at the teams down in Camden, Woodrow Wilson and Camden itself. Camden has arguably the best secondary in the state, if not the nation. Elijah Clark, Deuce Chestnut, and Corey Palmer are going to make lives miserable for quarterbacks. Speaking of signal callers, there's Devin Cargman from Woodrow Wilson, who led the state in passing yards last season. He's got a great receiver to throw to, and Amani Clark, who's heading to Maryland. There's a lot more teams and players to watch this year, and so get your popcorn ready. Football's back, baby.
Welcome back to the Red Zone Home Show. Thanks for tuning in. It's time for our first interview segment of the program. We have joining us from the NJSIAA, we have Chief Operating Officer Colleen McGuire. Colleen, thanks for stopping by today and taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. I have to say, I think this is my first Red Zone or any type of programming that I've been a part of, so I feel honored. So thank you.
Well, we're honored to have you. That's a great first show to appear on. Let's just start. Obviously, it's been a busy couple of months for you and your colleagues at the NJSIAA. Let's just talk about just how you arrived. What went into the decision to arrive at the plan that we have reached for football this fall?
Well, I don't want to take up your whole show because it certainly isn't a 1 minute response. I just have to say, since March, right, we've all been in a state of flux trying to figure out what's going to happen. But since we hit the ground running in June with Darren mentioned some task force and between the NJSI staff, those task force efforts, our communications with the governor's office, it's been just a tremendous amount of teamwork that's gone into getting us to where we are today. And like we keep saying all along, though, that we're aware that there's a long way to go. Just because we have this plan in place, and it's awesome to see teams out there practicing. Hopefully they're going to start scrimmaging later this week and games can kick off later next week. There's a long way to go and there's a lot of unknowns still. So we're ready to, we have that backup plan and we have multiple backup plans. I think our goal is to just get every kid, especially those seniors, get them an opportunity to compete this season. And as Steve mentioned, end their season and their career on their field of play.
Colleen, I was wondering, how hard is it to balance the NJSIA's desire for participation with the incentive to try to win something at the end of the season? You were a great player. You played college basketball. You remember the championship games more than you remember maybe regular season games. So how much is NJSIA juggling with that kind of mindset?
Yeah, it's definitely, that it's not easy to find that balance, but I think everyone's priorities and perspective has significantly changed over the last 6 months. So yes, I absolutely remember, the reason you have preseason, the reason you're up in the off months to work out is to get ready for that state championship or that championship opportunity. But I think we all need to stay mindful of that. In the end, sports, they're a privilege, right? And we all kind of learned that, the hard way since the cancellation last spring. And now that we have an opportunity to compete again, there shouldn't need to be much incentive to go out there and, give it your all and give it your best, taking it one game at a time. It's great to end your season with a championship. Not every team gets to end on that win. Very few do. But at some point, we got to recognize that the times we're in. And I think our perspectives have changed, that there's so much unknown about this virus that, I fingers crossed, we're playing football in November and these games on week 7 and week 8 go to completion. But I don't think we can take anything for granted.
Colleen, I agree with everything you've said about championships and everything. And at the end, you're basically saying that the leagues and conferences are going to schedule the 2 add-on games at the end. Was there ever any thought to just telling the leagues and conferences to just schedule an 8-game schedule instead of a 6-game schedule?
No, they didn't want that either. In my feedback over the course of the summer, from especially from the football perspective, is they did feel that the season should end with something to look forward to and something NJSIA involved, and what it was going to be. Football, it's hard, right? It's not like the other sports that you can schedule some sort of, bracketed tournament, open to everyone. That's our mindset this year. We want all pressure off of qualifying for postseason. You got to take that pressure off right from the start. And I was very proud in our first messaging that went out in July. I think we set that tone for what to expect this season. So with that said, Steve, I think, just going to completion for 8 games, at least those 2 weeks, they're matched up competitively. The leagues and conferences, they need to stay mindful of geography, enrollment, but they know their schools best. And it took a couple meetings throughout the summer with our office and the officers of all the 5 football leagues and conferences to kind of come up with what is going to be the most meaningful, conclusion to this season. Is there a way they vetted many different ideas, from starting with the traditional sectional title to, now going back a little bit smaller scale at the local league and conference level. They know best how to make these matchups and these groupings the most meaningful for the kids, lack of a better word.
I think I speak for a lot of people around the state that we're just happy to see sports back and football back, especially. Colleen, thank you so much for stopping by and taking the time to chat with us today and letting us in on the decision-making process. And hopefully we'll be going off without a hitch and talking about football into November.
Yeah, absolutely. We can only hope. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Nice, Colleen.
Take care.
That was Colleen McGuire from the NJSIAA. We're going to take another break in the show, and on the other side of the break, we will talk to the number 1 ranked team at the Jersey Shore. But before we do that, it's time for our 100-yard walk segment. Darren Cooper caught up with the number 1 recruit in the state of New Jersey. This is a snippet of his talk with him, and of course, for the full conversation, visit northjersey.com. But let's check in with our 100-yard walk segment.
Thank you, Ryan. Welcome to the Jack McGovern Field here in Oradell, New Jersey, home of the Bergen Catholic Crusaders and home of New Jersey's number 1 recruit, the one and only Tywone Malone from Bergen Catholic. How are you, Tywone?
I'm doing good.
Good. First question we have to ask everybody this time is just, how's your family? How's everybody been doing? Have you been lucky? Nobody gotten sick?
No one's gotten sick in my family. It's all going good.
Man, it's scary though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How did that change and impact kind of like what you were planning on doing this summer and what you had to do this summer?
Yeah, definitely this summer I had a lot more baseball tournaments, and I had a couple visits set up until the virus hit. So it's been a lot more like Zoom calls, FaceTime calls.
If you don't know, Mr. Malone's quite the baseball player. Did you start playing baseball first?
Yes, sir, I did at a young age.
And what do you enjoy about playing baseball?
Just everything, just the sport in general. It's just a lot of competitive sport.
Right.
You just got to have a lot of mental work, eye coordination, hand-eye go. You got to have great feet work to play. It's just something I love to do.
Of course, I'm not going to ask you where you're going because you can go anywhere you want. But have you got your mind kind of made up on what kind of school you want to go to? What do you want out of the school?
Pretty much what I want out of school is a school that can let me do both. That's highly important to me, is to make sure our school is allowing me to do both. Other than that, it's just education, a place I can feel comfortable at, that I feel like I can fit in really well.
All right, last thing, what are you going to study?
A business or sports medicine.
Good choice. From Jack McGovern Field here in Oradell, home of the Bergen Catholic Crusaders, I'm Darren Cooper. That's Tywone Malone. Back to you, Ryan.
All right, thanks, Darren. Of course, that was the 100-yard segment. Again, check out northjersey.com for the full interview. Welcome back to the Red Zone Home Show. It's time for our second interview segment of the program. Joining us from the Wall Crimson Knights, we have head coach Tony Grandinetti and running back Casey Larkin, the number 1 team at the Shore, number 6 overall in the state, coming off a 12-1 season. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. How's everyone doing today?
Oh, we're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Coach, let's begin with you. Of course, it's the question I think coaches all around the state are being asked, but take us through this offseason, unlike really, of course, any offseason we've ever had.
Good, thanks.
What have the challenges been like getting ready for this season?
It has been a unique offseason. The day March 13th when we did shut down at school, we took the approach where, we're going to have to adapt and we're going to have to roll with the punches. And, we started right away with online workouts, and those online workouts took us through the end of the school year. We followed all the rules, and we've been waiting patiently, just like everyone else in the state, to get back together with the team. But, I think adapting and handling adverse situations, I think everyone in the state, throughout the state, can definitely say that they've done that. I know here at Wall, we have been focused on that. As soon as July 13th came around, we started getting together for phase 1. So we were one of the schools in the very beginning to participate, and it's been going great. One thing that I've noticed is all the players, the boys, the parents, the administration, everyone involved, all the coaches. We all want to be here, so we're all taking the precautions that we need to do.
Tony, Casey, now that you're back, Casey, tell us what life has been like for you as a player during the pandemic.
Do we have Casey? I'm not sure if Casey can hear us right now.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
But we'll throw it over to Coach. Coach, having games to play this season, last year, of course, a historic season, a sectional championship, 12-1. Your team led mostly by juniors. Now all of a sudden this season was up in the air for these kids to come back and play. But it does look like we are going to have games. How special is that for this senior group, especially a group that has accomplished so much to be able to get that final season?
Yeah, it's, we're very grateful. I know Colleen said it earlier. A few of you said it earlier. We're all grateful to have the opportunity to play football this year. For my guys, for my seniors, nobody wants to miss out on their senior year. So we're just grateful to have the opportunity to go out and compete. We take that mindset every day at practice. Even before we get to games, we talk about every day. We take one day at a time, and every day is an opportunity to play football. So we're grateful. We're very grateful for that, and I know that the players appreciate it.
Tony, is the end of practice message any different now? Because it appears that so many of the issues with COVID happen away from the football field and away from the school. So is your end of practice message any different than it's been in the past?
I'll tell you what, one thing that I always preach to the team and the coaching staff is, we focus. We block out distractions. The way we are approaching this off season right now, and we're still in that preseason mode. The way we approach it is we focus on every day, and every day we look to improve. We need some sense of normalcy, and for me to harp on COVID and the shutdown, I don't think that's a positive thing for our players right now. I think we're doing the right things to get to practice, and once we're there, we focus on improving as a team because come October 2nd, the scoreboards are on, and we're going to be ready to compete.
Hey, Casey, you can hear us? Casey, you there? Maybe not, but Coach, I'll go to you with the question I was going to ask Casey. 12-1 last year. You win the state or sectional title, but probably a little bit of a sour taste in your mouth losing that last game in that bowl game at Rutgers. Is it possible to say that a team that went 12-1 this year and is starting at the Shore ranked number one? It's a scary prospect for your opponents to imagine that you guys might have a bit of a chip on your shoulder to go out and finish the job that you started last year.
Well, we definitely do. We definitely have that chip on our shoulder. The day after Woodrow Wilson last year in December, I think it was December 8th, we were in school December 9th, and that's usually the first day of the off season. And one of our guys, returning player for this year, he went into the weight room, he went onto the whiteboard, and he wrote Woodrow Wilson 12-7. And that has been on there ever since. And that's our motivation. Last year was a special year. It was a historic year for Wall football. But again, we didn't get the job done what we wanted to accomplish. This year is a new year. We have our new goals. We're very focused and we're very motivated to get back onto the field.
Darren, question?
Can I ask you, Coach? I'm curious. Up in North Jersey, one of the biggest challenges I've heard from my coaches is how hard it is to evaluate the talent during this offseason, since it was so hard. Like how to know where a sophomore running back maybe took a big jump forward or a wide receiver. What steps have you had to take to try to evaluate the talent through all this uncertainty? The guys coming back. I'm sure you don't have every starter back. So how difficult is it, Tony?
It has been difficult to evaluate the talent. That's one of the challenges that we've had to face. Luckily, since July 13th, we've been together as a team. There's a lot of guys, and I'm sure all coaches say this, everyone looks good in shorts and t-shirts. So it hasn't been since, the past couple of weeks where we start hitting, we start putting the pads on. We play a very physical style of football. With that being said, we had a few question marks, and, it's been tough. But like I said, since the past week or so, since we've been able to hit, is when we've really been able to start evaluating. But one thing that I look for in the off season, is participation, effort. 100% effort in every workout. The saying in the off season was get comfortable being uncomfortable. And we got uncomfortable in workouts and, pushing yourselves to the limit. That's some of the things that I look for in players and what kind of character and integrity do the boys have, because that's the integrity and character that's going to show up in the fourth quarter.
All right,
Casey. There he is.
Is he there?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Casey?
A little trouble.
Describe how life was like for you during the pandemic, and how nervous were you that we were not going to have a season?
Me personally, I remained hopeful, just like the rest of the guys. We were training like we were having a season, no matter what. It was kind of, we faced adversity. That was in the back of our minds as going into this season, that uncertainty with everyone. But we still trained. We did everything we could, just like a season was happening. So.
And Casey, the question I asked Coach too, you guys accomplished so much last year, especially this group of seniors, winning the state sectional title, going 12-1, finishing number 1 at the Shore. But that one in the loss column really has to motivate you guys in the off season and to get started for this season. What's the message around your teammates, Ben, to start this season?
Just stay on top. We got a chip on our shoulder now. We got a target on our back. So we're gonna play as hard as possible, just like last year. That one loss, it hurts. That we wrote it on the board right in the weight room when we started, before kind of the pandemic kind of started. We wrote in that weight room 12-7 Woodrow Wilson, just to keep us humble, keep us ready to go, and then try to get back to the same spot, even if we have only 8 games, 6 games, whatever it is.
Just like an opposing defense, technology can slow Casey down, but it can't stop him. So we're able to overcome the technical difficulties. And guys, we're so happy to talk to you and happy to be discussing upcoming seasons and games coming up. Tony Grandinetti and Casey Larkin from Wall Township. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys.
That's our number 1 team at the Shore, number 6 in the state. We're going to take another break here in the show. On the other side of the break, we'll have some predictions coming up. And right now, it's time to check in with our buddy Chris Melvin. He has a new segment where he'll go around the state, profiling some of the state's best players and top recruits. Let's check in with Chris.
Hey, high school football fans, this is Chris Melvin with my new segment, the Chris Melvin Recruiting Corner. Every week, I'll be focusing on the top players from across the state of New Jersey. This week, we'll be focusing on Jackson's 6-foot, 190-pound running back / athlete, Will the Thrill Towns. Will happens to be the number 1 player in the Shore, number 13 in the state of class of 2020. As a junior, the 3-star recruit rushed for 1,372 yards and 14 scores. One of the state's top running backs. What separates Will from other players is the fact that not only is he a great running back, he's a sensational athlete, could play multiple positions. Line him up at wideout, running back, DB, returner, you know it. He can cause havoc. He has superb athleticism, toughness. He has shifty hips, sick footwork, and super soft hands. With more than 20 offers on the table, Towns committed to Wake Forest back in May of 2020, where he'll join former Brick Township star athlete Josier Teller, who plays defensive back for the Demon Deacons. Towns reminds me of former Elizabeth and Illinois running back E.B. Halsley, who was a star recruit back in 2002. For all the kids at home, no one's perfect. What Will needs to work on is being more consistent and dominate every game like his last. There aren't too many things that Will the Thrill doesn't do well. He's a special talent for Coach Vinny Mastretta and the Jackson Memorial Jags.
Our thanks to Chris for checking in on his recruiting corner. Now it's time for some predictions to close the show. We'll wait till next week to predict individual games, so we're going to do some general predictions for the upcoming season. We'll start in North Jersey and you, Darren. Let's go through some surprise teams that we might see out of North Jersey.
All right. On the public school side, there's Patterson Eastside is my surprise team of the year. That's the Ghost there in white. They beat up on Kennedy on Thanksgiving. Eastside, if you remember, did not make the playoffs last year. They got suspended from the playoffs after a altercation during a regular season game. They are motivated. They have the Jacobs brothers, 2 outstanding athletes, some more Division I recruits, put Chris Melvin on alert. And on the non-public side, I think it's Bergen Catholic. Bergen Catholic starts our season number 2. They are loaded at quarterback with Steve Angeli, who's just got an offer from Notre Dame, who's got an offer from Ohio State. It's his ball now in Oradell, and they expect big things out of him.
Steve, how about at the Shore? What's a team that might surprise us this year?
How about the Lacey Township Lions, who got to the Central Jersey 3 semifinal last year and actually gave Wall a very competitive game before they were defeated 35-18. They have the quarterback back. They have a lot of players back, and they have a very favorable schedule. The schedule, which the Shore Conference arranged their schedules this year on a geographical basis so there wouldn't be too much travel involved. Lacey's schedule is kind of the old Shore Conference Class B South schedule, which is a division that they dominated for many years in the 90s. It would not surprise me if Lacey wound up 6-0 at the end of the regular season. As for the best team in the Shore, I think Wall is the best team in the Shore. One reason is we just had him on, Casey Larkin. He's a player that can do a lot of things. He's a very good running back. He's a dangerous receiver, and he's one of the state's better defensive backs. And he's smart. He's going to the United States Military Academy. They also have their quarterback back in Logan Peters, who's also an outstanding defensive back. They have a very good offensive line, and they just seem to have their system rolling. Teams like Rumson Fairhaven and Mater Dei, who are very talented, and Townsend North and Donovan Catholic, who Wall will scrimmage on Thursday night, will all give Wall a run for their money in the Shore. But in the end, I think Wall could very well run the table.
Darren, too, your number 1 team, that was Bergen Catholic?
Well, the number 1 team in North Jersey in the state is still St. Peter's Prep, and they've got Taj Bullock going to Virginia Tech. He's quarterback, loaded at offensive line and defensive line. Coach Hansen thinks he's got one of the best offenses, most powerful offenses in New Jersey. And we'll see, though. The schedule, like Steve was just making the point about the schedule for Lacey, St. Peter's Prep schedule is not full of cupcakes. It'll be real interesting to see. And nobody's repeated in a while in non-public 4 that St. Peter's Prep's challenge this year.
And of course, too, with everything going on this season, we're going to check in with one of our talented videographers here, Brian Johnston, an award-winning videographer. He caught up with the head coach of Lakewood. Of course, with all the delays and things that are going on with football, it's been frustrating, but this has affected people as well on a personal level. Let's check in with Brian and check out the video that he has with the Lakewood head coach.
People always say, like, oh, you're just a football coach, you want to play. And I'm like, my mother died of this.
It's twisted? It's twisted or straight?
It's straight.
That's good?
Yeah, it's good. You know, you don't know what the disease does until you're looking at someone in a ventilator on FaceTime. You know, like, that's a shocking image for a person with 100 tubes. And so I full-heartedly know what the disease can do and what's capable of. But at the same time, my mother wouldn't have, if she was alive, she would tell, like, you have to get back to some type of normalcy as long as you're following procedures and protocols. And like I've said before, the safest place for the kids is to be with us because it's structure. And knock on wood, you know, we've been out here since July 6th and we haven't had any symptoms or any cases of that matter. Snap, let it rip. Good. I was very fortunate to let my mom be a mother to a lot of broken homes and a lot of the children in Lakewood. For the last 12 years, she's cooked pasta every game, whether it's Thursday or Friday, if we put on Saturday, for the last 10 years for how many kids? She makes 12 dozen eggs and 6 pounds of bacon on Saturday morning games when we play home for breakfast. So the kids, so like her stamp on this program is, I can't even say. Just, hey, you're doing too much. Just back up and throw the ball. Her passion was coming to Lakewood sports. You know, my mother's been at every single game since I played Pop Warner, to high school, to college, and she's been at every game I've ever coached. And like before the games, my parents come super early, even away games. They'll be in the crowd by themselves. My mom would blow me a kiss. So, you know, unfortunately, her spirit lives on, and it's gonna be tough. I'd be lying to you if I said it wouldn't be tough.
That video from Brian Johnston over at Lakewood. Brian tells me the coach relayed to him they'll be keeping a seat open in the bleachers this season in memory of Coach Clark's mother. So obviously with all the delays and frustration this has affected people personally, as we see there. So as we head into this season, guys, what effect, do you see COVID continuing to have on the season, or are you more optimistic that we're able to get through this and get some sliver of normalcy back?
My feeling is we're going to see this kind of play out kind of like Major League Baseball season did, in that we're going to lose some games and some teams are going to have to suspend for a little while. But the bulk of our teams, 80%, 90%, are going to keep playing. We're just all going to have to forced to adapt and adjust to what COVID-19 throws at us next.
First of all, if that piece on L.J. Clark and his mother doesn't put everything into perspective, I don't think anything will. I agree with you, Darren. I do think there will be stops. Like Major League Baseball, there will be games that won't be played. There's already been, I think, games around the state canceled in week 1. The biggest issue is what happens to what do these student athletes do away from the football field and away from school? Because that's where seems to be where most of the issues come up, whether they go to parties, whether they're in large gatherings. As long as when they're in a controlled environment like the football field and like the school, I think the issue is okay. But I think the biggest issue is off the field. And I think that's the message that needs to be drummed in the student athletes' heads every day. Be smart. Don't get involved in large parties. Don't get involved in large gatherings. Go to football practice, go to school, go home. That's basically it. I do think there will be stops and starts, and I hope you're right there. And I do hope we get through 9 weeks counting Thanksgiving of high school football.
I know we're all certainly hopeful for them. And of course, at the end of the day, we just hope that everyone is safe and stays safe and, avoids getting sick. So we're all hopeful for that. And, we are happy to be back, and we hope that it lasts as well. So we'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to our first Red Zone home show. As I said, we'll be doing this every Tuesday at noon live. You can tune in and watch us there. NorthJersey.com, APP.com, MyCentralJersey.com, and the Courier Post Online.com. Our thanks to Colleen McGuire from the NJSIAA. Thanks to Tony Grandinetti and Casey Larkin from Wall. For Darren, for Steve, for Chris, I'm Ryan Ross. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.